Well, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're joining us from today. Coach Kevin Sparks here, and let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like to do is go ahead and share my screen with you guys and point out a few things. If you're watching this as a recording, or maybe this is your first time with us, what I'm going to share with you right this moment will be helpful to you. Actually, it's helpful to anybody who hasn't done this yet. I want to point out that we have a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup group, and it has exactly, excuse me, has exactly the same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. So to find us, if you go into your own Facebook account and go into where it says search Facebook, and you type in the name of the group, I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it, you will find us. The other way you can find us is to go directly to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich is one word. Now, why might you want to join the Facebook group? Well, first of all, if we have any special announcements for everybody, we like to pin those to the top. The other reason is as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do, we record the Zoom meetings that we have together, and you can go look at the recordings. So there was last Friday, and there was Thursday was skipped, but there's Wednesday, and you go back through, and so on and so forth. So for instance, if you like something, like let's say you're on today and you really like what went on and you want to review it, come back in the Facebook group and you can do that. The other thing is, let's say you make it Monday, Tuesday, oops, I had to miss Wednesday, but I'm here Thursday, Friday, and you want to get caught up with what you missed, that would be another reason to be a part of the group. So definitely good reasons for that. Okay. The other reason is if we're using materials, I did this a few days ago. We went through something that only took one day, and it wasn't a book or some kind of public domain work or anything like that you could go off and get for free. I went ahead and took it and posted it into the Facebook group so you could download it and have it for yourself. And that was Bob Proctor talking about decisions. So that would be why you want to be part of the group. Next thing I want to point out to you is what we are currently in the process of doing. So we started November 5th of last year. And up until now, November, we started out with Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich. After we went through that, we went through a book by Leslie Householder called Hidden Treasures. Now, Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich, it was exactly that. It told you how people that are rich become rich on the creative plane. And it gave you the instructions on how to do so. Leslie's book, Hidden Treasures, talked about the laws of the universe in relationship to manifesting what you want in your life. And of course, we particularly focused on money and wealth because that's what our meetup's about. But it explained that there's a lot more to it than just the law of attraction. Matter of fact, the law of attraction is just a subsidiary law to the law of vibration. But what we learned was there are 7 different laws that govern us receiving what it is that we want. And we need to understand those and be in alignment with them in order to receive what we want. Then the next thing that we did is we went through a Reader's Digest version. This was right before Thanksgiving, 2 days before Thanksgiving, a Reader's Digest version of the steps necessary to attract what you want. It was a book called It Works. After that, we went through Decision by Bob Proctor on Thanksgiving Day. Then after that, we went into Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. If you understand how the law of attraction works, you understand how the laws work, but your mind has been programmed to defeat you because subconsciously you're in discord and disagreement with what it is you'd really like to have. Your programming is something different than what you really want. Then you have to go ahead and change that too. So you need to be in alignment with the laws. The laws are always working. They're not something you push a pause button on or you stop and play with it. They're always going, but you want to understand how they function so you use them properly and so you don't harm yourself against them. Just like a little kid, falling off of a countertop or something because they're trying to climb up and get the cookie jar. If that little kid that's, let's say, a toddler or whatever, climbed onto a chair and then onto the counter and lost its balance and tumbled and fell, the law of gravity would have come into play. All right. If the child didn't understand that, the child got hurt because of what they were doing. Even if they understood, let's say they chose to disobey the law anyway, and they lost their footing, they would still fall and get hurt. So you've got to understand how the laws work. The power of your subconscious mind taught us how our subconscious mind works, how it got programmed the way it is today, and what to do about changing those programs so that we can actually receive what we want in our life. Now we're going through a book. We started it. We didn't get very far yet. So you can go back to last Friday and you'd be 100% caught up with us. We're going into a book called The Power of Awareness. Okay. The Power of Awareness is by Neville Goddard. It was written quite a long time ago, just like The Science of Getting Rich was. And the reason we're going through this is this particular book is who you are and the power that you actually have to create your life. By understanding truly who you are and what abilities you have, even if they're not very well developed, okay, understanding that you do have those abilities and learning how to develop those abilities and knowing who you truly are and what you're capable of is also extremely important, because you're never going to manifest anything beyond in your life what your self-image is, what you believe about yourself to be. If your self-image is that of a poor person, you will not manifest wealth and money. If your self-image isn't one of confidence and faith and courage, then you aren't going to be able to do certain things that require those traits. So it's important to understand who we are and understand that inherently we're capable of absolutely anything. We may not have that programmed into our subconscious mind currently because we allowed, or while we were growing up, our parents allowed, our environment allowed us to be programmed in opposition to who we truly are. But when we come to know who we truly are and we shake off those chains that of limiting beliefs based upon the outside world is given to us, then we start to realize, you know what, I can be, do, or have whatever it is I feel like. Whatever it is I truly want to be, do, or have, I can. And now I'm being taught the steps on how to do that. But understanding who you are and the power you truly have is one of the most important things we can come across. So I like how Neville Goddard goes about explaining it. So I've got that book on Kindle. I've got it on Audible. However, I wanted to find one that you guys could get for free and that I could grab for free also, and that you could follow along. So I typed in the Power of Awareness PDF. The very first one, at least for me, this is a few days ago, that popped up was this right here. The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, the law of, and up here it says www.law-of-attraction-haven.com, support files, blah, blah, blah. Click on that one when you find it. That way you'll match the one that we're using. When you do, what'll happen is this will pop up. Now it'll pop up on page 1. Okay, we're actually here on page 11. It'll pop up there. Nice thing about it, didn't ask for any information. All I had to do was go to my download function, download it, and now I have it on my computer. So you can go do the same thing and have the exact same copy that we do. And I highly recommend you do that, especially if you missed Friday. However, if you're not going to do that right now, which is fine, maybe it'll kick you out of Zoom or something, stay with us. I'll keep sharing my screen while we go through this today. And when we're done today, you can go get a copy for yourself. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is start reading where we left off. I will add commentary where I feel it's helpful and appropriate. And just FYI, if you're here with us for the first time and you're typing things into chat, I'm not paying any attention to chat right now. Okay. That way we can follow through with this. What we do is we like to leave 10, 15 minutes or so at the end of what we're doing each day to give you the opportunity to talk about and share whatever you like, and or ask whatever questions you want to ask. So you'll have your time and your opportunity to, if you have a question and you're trying to get it answered, write it down. We won't ignore you, okay? But we will, while we're going through this, you're not going to interrupt everybody else while we do this. We'll wait till we're ready for that time. Then we'll open it up to you and you can share with us whatever it is that's on your mind. All right? So we're going to start right here. I'm going to get a quick sip of water and we'll get rolling. Okay. Now, I'm also going to tell you too, again, this book was written a long time ago, very early 1900s, okay? So understand that the way this person speaks is going to be a little different than somebody would today. Also want to tell you, I love this chapter, the power of assumption. The assuming is what actually creates. That's what you're going to find out. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Let me repeat that. Man's chief delusion, men and women's chief delusion, is their conviction that there are causes other than their own state of consciousness. All that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him happens as a result of his state of consciousness. Let me repeat that. All that befalls a man or woman, all that is done by him or her, all that comes from him or her, happens as a result of his or her state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. Rain falls as a result of a change in the temperature in the higher regions of the atmosphere. So in like manner, a change of circumstances happens as a result of a change in your state of consciousness. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. To be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts cannot change unless you have new ideas, for you think from your ideas. All transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. The first step in the renewing of the mind is desire. You must want to be different and intend to be before you can begin to change yourself. Then you must make your future dream a present fact. You do this by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By desiring to be other than what you are, you can create an ideal of the person you want to be and assume that you're already that person. Let me repeat. By desiring to be other than what you are, you can create an ideal of the person you want to be and assume that you're already that person. So you can create the blueprint of yourself in your life before it manifests in its physicality. Matter of fact, you have to. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. The ideal you hope to achieve is always ready for an incarnation. But unless you offer it human parentage, it is incapable of birth. Therefore, your attitude should be one in which, having desired to express a higher state, you alone accept the task of incarnating this new and greater value of yourself. In giving birth to your ideal, you must bear in mind that the methods of mental and spiritual knowledge are entirely different. This is a point that is truly understood by probably not more than one person in a million. To know a thing mentally by looking at it from the outside, by comparing it with other things, by analyzing it and defining it, by thinking of it, whereas you can know a thing spiritually only by becoming it, only by thinking from it. You must be the thing itself and not merely talk about it or look at it. You must be like the moth in search of his idol, the flame, who, spurred with true desire, plunged at once into the sacred fire, folded his wings within till he became one color and one substance with the flame. He only knew the flame who in it burned, and only he could tell who ne'er to tell returned. Just as the moth in his desire to know the flame was willing to destroy himself, so must you become a new person by being willing to die to your present self. Interesting thought. You've got to let your present self die as the new person you want to become is being born. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is. You must be conscious of being secure if you want to know what security is. Therefore, to incarnate a new and greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be, and then live by faith in this assumption, which is not yet incarnate in the body of your life, in confidence that this new value or state of consciousness will become incarnated through your absolute fidelity to the assumption that you are that which you desire to be. This is what wholeness means, what integrity means. They mean submission to the whole self, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled in certainty that the new state of consciousness is the renewing of mind which transforms. There is no order in nature corresponding to this willing submission of self to the ideal beyond the self. Therefore, it is the height of folly to expect the incarnation of a new and greater concept of self to come about by natural evolutionary process. That which requires a state of consciousness to produce its effect obviously cannot be affected without such a state of consciousness. And in your ability to assume the feeling of a greater life, to assume a new concept of yourself, you possess the rest of nature does not possess: imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. Imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. Your imagination is the instrument, the means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, and poverty is effected. If you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means, whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you whether you remain in your present concept of yourself, a hungry being longing for freedom, health, and security, or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. Oh, be strong then, and brave, pure, patient, and true. The work that is yours, let no other hand do. For the strength from the fountain within you, the kingdom of heaven. Okay, chapter 4. Yep. Desire. The changes which take place in your life are the result of your changed concept of yourself. Always appears to be to the unenlightened to be the result, not of a change of your consciousness, but of chance, outer cause, or coincidence. Let me repeat that. The changes which take place in your life as a result of your changed concept of yourself always appear to the unenlightened to be the result, not the change of your consciousness, but of chance, outer cause, or coincidence. However, the only fate governing your life is the fate determined by your own concepts, your own assumptions. For an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. For an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The ideal you seek and hope to attain will not manifest itself, will not be realized by you until you have imagined that you are already that ideal. There is no escape for you except by a radical psychological transformation of yourself, except by your assuming of the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Therefore, make results or accomplishments the crucial test of your ability to use your imagination. Everything depends on your attitude towards yourself. That which you will not affirm as true of yourself can never be realized by you. For that attitude alone is the necessary condition by which you realize your goal. Let me repeat this. Everything depends on your attitude towards yourself. That which you will not affirm as true of yourself can never be realized by you. For that attitude alone is the necessary condition by which you realize your goal. All transformation is based upon suggestion, and this can work only where you lay yourself completely open to an influence. You must abandon yourself to your ideal as a woman abandons herself to love. For complete abandonment of self to it is the way to union with your ideal. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality. I love that. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality. You must imagine that you are already experiencing what you desire. That is, you must assume the feeling of the fulfillment of your desire until, so how long? Until you're possessed by it, and this feeling crowds all other ideas out of your consciousness. The man who is not prepared for the conscious plunge into the assumption of the wish fulfilled in the faith that it is the only way to the realization of his dream is not yet ready to live consciously by the law of assumption, although there is no doubt that he does live by the law of assumption unconsciously. But for you to accept this principle, but for you who accept this principle and are ready to live by consciously assuming that your wish is already fulfilled, the adventure of life begins. To reach a higher level of being, you must assume a higher concept of yourself. If you will not imagine yourself as other than what you are, then you remain as you are. For if you believe not that I am he, ye shall die in your sins. If you do not believe that you are he, the person you want to be, then you remain as you are. Through the faithful systematic cultivation of the feeling of the wish fulfilled, desire becomes the promise of its own fulfillment. The assumption of the feeling of the wish fulfilled makes the future dream a present fact. Okay, I think we're going to do one more before we hop out of the screen share. Chapter 5, the truth that sets you free. The drama of life is a psychological one in which all the conditions, circumstances, and events of your life are brought to pass by your assumptions. Think about that. The drama of life is a psychological one in which all the conditions, circumstances, and events of your life are brought to pass by your assumptions. Since your life is determined by your assumptions, you're forced to recognize the fact that you're either a slave to your assumptions or their master. To become the master of your assumptions is the key to undreamed of freedom and happiness. You can attain this mastery by deliberate, conscious control of your imagination. You determine your assumptions in this way. Form a mental image, a picture of the state desired, of the person you want to be. Concentrate your attention upon the feeling that you're already that person. First, visualize the picture in your consciousness. Then feel yourself to be in that state as though it actually formed your surrounding world. By your imagination, that which was a mere mental image is changed into a seemingly solid reality. The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. Repeat that. The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. It cannot be emphasized too much that by creating an ideal within your mental sphere, by assuming that you are already that ideal, you identify yourself with it and thereby transform yourself into its image, thinking from the ideal instead of thinking of the ideal. Again, thinking from the ideal instead of thinking of the ideal. Every state is already there as mere possibilities as long as we think of them, but as overpoweringly real when we think from them. But as overpoweringly real when we think from them. This was called by the ancient teachers subjection to the will of God, or resting in the Lord. And the only true test of resting in the Lord is that all who do rest are inevitably transformed into the image of that which they rest, thinking from the wish fulfilled. You become according to your resigned will, and your resigned will is your concept of yourself and all that you consent to and accept as true. You, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled and continuing therein, take upon yourself the results of that state. Not assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are ever free of the results. When you understand the redemptive function of imagination, you hold in your hands the key to the solution of all your problems. Every phase of your life is made by the exercise of your imagination. Let me repeat that. Every phase of your life is made by the exercise of your imagination. Determined imagination alone is the means of your progress, of the fulfilling of your dreams. It is the beginning and end of all creating. The great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focused on the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. Crowds out the fear, crowds out the worry, crowds out the doubt. What greater gifts could be given you than to be told the truth that will set you free? The truth that sets you free is that you can experience in imagination what you desire to experience in reality. And by maintaining this experience in imagination, your desire will become an actuality. You are limited only by your uncontrolled imagination and lack of attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When the imagination is not controlled and the attention not steadied on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, then no amount of prayer or piety or invocation will produce the desired effect. Let me repeat that. You are limited only by your uncontrolled imagination and lack of attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When the imagination is not controlled and the attention not steadied on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, then no amount of prayer or piety or invocation will produce the desired effect. When you can call up at will whatsoever image you please, when the forms of your imagination are as vivid to you as the forms of nature, you are the master of your fate. You must stop spending your thoughts, your time, and your money. Everything in life must be an investment. Visions of beauty and splendor, forms of a long lost race, sounds and faces and voices from the fourth dimension of space, and on through the universe boundless, our thoughts go lightning shod. Some call it imagination and others call it God. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and read this little footnote here and see if it's relevant. Neville follows this with the date of April 12th, 1953. In Awakened Imagination, 1954, he would write on the morning, of April 12th, 1953, my wife was awakened by the sound of a great voice of authority speaking within her, saying, you must stop spending your thoughts, time, and money. Everything in life must be an investment. To spend is to waste, to squander, to lay out without return. To invest is to lay out for a purpose from which a profit is expected. This revelation of my wife is about the importance of the moment. It is about the transformation of the moment. It is only what is done now that counts. Whenever we assume the feeling of being what we want to be, we are investing. Whenever we assume the feeling of being what we want to be, we are investing. All right. Attention. we're going to go ahead and stop there for now, for today. We'll go into that tomorrow. Hey, some more of you joined us. Awesome, awesome. Good to have you with us. Let's see, anybody brand new I don't recognize? I think everybody's been with us at least once, not 100% sure. Well, just in case there's someone new, I'll just explain what we're going to do real quick. This is your opportunity to share whatever it is that you wanted to share, or ask whatever questions you wanted to ask, as long as it's related to what it is that we were studying today, what we've studied in the past, and or related to manifesting more money and wealth into our life. So if you have some experiences of success, and by the way, or manifesting anything wonderful, let me add that in there. If you've manifested something pretty cool and you want to share that with us, that's awesome. However, again, the main focus is money and wealth per this particular group and what we're doing here. So if you have anything to share, any ahas, anything that opened up your mind, anything that's been helpful to you, again, in relationship to what we studied today or in the past, great. And or if you have any questions regarding those things and or anything related to manifesting more money and wealth in your life, feel free to ask that. So all you need to do is come off of mute and start sharing what you want to share or ask whatever question you want to ask. All right, we'll go from there. It's your time. Hi, hi, Takira.
How are you?
Good. You're coming in kind of quiet. Let's see.
Let me see. Better now?
Oh, way better.
Okay. I'm actually like headed out. I wanted to tell you like a success story, I guess.
Okay.
Because I did my 300 list, not all of it, but I had manifested already one of the items, which was for a maid/housekeeper. So I'm excited about that. And I was listening to the Power of Awareness on YouTube. It's about 4 hours long. And I've been working on each number on my list as my goal for the day. So like yesterday was, I live in a $6 million condominium. So my question is, am I doing this right? What I do is, I don't say the affirmation. I pretend of what I would do in the condo. So when I wake up, I might open up the curtains and see a view of New York City. And I just put that in my mind all day long. Is that the right concept? Or should I add to it? Because it feels good doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say it, I don't believe it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when we're doing something, like you have a computer right now, you don't have to keep saying, I have a computer, I have a computer. You know that, you're using it. So that's how I'm applying it. Is that the right way to do it?
What I would tell you is it's going to take some time, but you are still looking at, because you talk a lot about the outside. You talk a lot about outside results when we have discussion, like, because I see, here's what I want, here's what I'm manifesting, but everything else around me tells me different. You need to get rid of that but. You need to get your butt out of the way. Right? Get your butt out of the way. Like if somebody's butt is in the way of your view, you tell them, get your butt out of the way, right? You got to mentally get your butt out of the way and go, okay, hold on. If this feels good, it is good, first of all. If it truly feels good, right? Not if you're forcing it. There's a difference between pleasure and peace and joy, right? Yeah. We could take a drug and it might feel good, okay? But that's not what we're talking about, right? It's that peaceful state of consciousness that this is something that's good for me, and there's this feeling of peace and joy and ease and tranquility. Anything we do that creates that feeling and that emotion is good for us. So first of all, let me state that.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is if you felt guided to do it this way, then do it this way. If you're just playing around with your own ideas, that's okay too, as long as it feels good. What I would do though is the 300 list was not necessarily, it's meant to be read and to feel it. So what you're doing, go through it. But ultimately, you've got to decide on one thing.
Okay.
You've got to decide on the thing that needs to happen. So what I recommend is we did this a while ago, but go find The book, It
Uh-huh.
Works. I mentioned that in kind of the intro today. You'll find It Works. And
Okay, it works. Okay.
and it shares with you the process of picking something that you want. The idea is you're going to pick it's going to tell you to write out a list, just like you already have your 300 list, so use that. But it's going to tell you to
Right.
order things in their importance to you. Now, don't take 300 things and try and put those in order of importance. Okay, that would all right. You already know which ones are the most important to you, kind of. So get that top 10 list. And then out of that, what is most important for you right now? It doesn't matter if it's which thing it is on the list, but whatever is most important to you, that is the thing you want to spend the most time creating for yourself so that it will manifest. Other things will still come because you'll be in a good state, in a good vibration as you're doing that. So you're not giving up on everything else by focusing on something. I used to think that, right? But you're right now, you've got to reprogram for everything that you want that's slightly different from something else, right? You've got to reprogram your subconscious mind to accept that particular thing. Like some people could be, I know this sounds funny, some people can be rich, but they couldn't wear nice clothes. Like, huh? Because their subconscious won't let them wear nice clothes. But funny enough, they still could be rich if their subconscious mind accepts money and wealth for a different reason. But that person won't feel comfortable in the environment of nice clothes because there's some silly program. Let's take Oprah as a for instance. And I've got some of the same stuff, right? Oprah's extremely wealthy, and yet she's battled her weight for a long time, right? They're two different programs. Her subconscious mind a long time ago accepted wealth and money as normal for her, but her subconscious mind has not yet been programmed to accept her body being the way she wanted it to be, and that's because she has too much negative charge and emotion around that part of her life. So no matter how successful we are in one area, great, that means our subconscious mind accepted that as normal for us. A lot of times we assume, hey, if I'm successful over here, I'm automatically going to be successful here. If your subconscious mind has a program in opposition, it's going to be harder than you think until you know how to reprogram yourself. And that's why you want to focus on something, right? We learned to tie our shoes and do 1, 2, 3 before we moved on to algebra and calculus or whatever we did. So I'm not saying bigger or smaller either. I'm saying what's truly important to you at this point in time, and just recognize that those things will come off, and it'll change. It'll talk about it, but go listen to or read It Works. It'll take you less than a half an hour to read it. It'll probably take you about 15 to 20 minutes. There's an audiobook version too, but I want you to actually read it. So go find a PDF file of it. It's all over the place. And focus on getting you want a lot of things. So do I. We all do. So I'm not knocking you for that. But you got to make a decision. And that's why we went through decision the other day. We got to make a decision about something to focus on for right now. But what you just did, again, was still good because anything that makes you feel good. But I can do all kinds of things that make me feel good, and I'll get good in my life. You can only get good when you feel good. So that's true. But I may not get specifically what I'm wanting. I may get a lot of great things, so I'll still be happy, which I suppose everybody could live their life that way if they had no specific goal except to feel good every day and accepted what God and the universe gave to them as a result. I promise you, you would only receive good things because you can't receive bad things when you're only putting out good vibrations and feeling good. Awesome. Okie dokie. Who's next with any comments or questions?
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Thank you for hosting this meeting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Not sure who it is that's saying that, but
My name is Len.
hey, welcome.
Thank you. Kevin, I'm very interested in the teachings of Abraham with Esther Hicks.
Uh-huh.
They seem to put um, a certain amount of focus on the process by which abundance comes to you.
Mhm.
And they've actually, if you're familiar, they've actually said a number of times I've heard that you really don't want a large amount of money just dropping into your lap. They seem to be more focused on the process by which you acquire it.
Mhm.
And it seems that the process is intended to be joyful and satisfying
Yep.
and fun.
Yeah.
Do you make any distinction between acquiring abundance that way or through a large lottery win?
Uh-huh. By the way, Lynn, I agree with them. Okay. The amount of money that's necessary in our life is dependent upon what we want to be, do, and have. And it's going to be different for everybody. There's not an amount of money out there that's money's kind of an irrelevant thing. Um, what I talk to people about is how do you want to be living your life? What does that look like and feel like for you? And go create that. And then the amount of money that you need, if you even need money for it, will be manifested at the right and appropriate times in the right ways. But we can receive things without necessarily even having the money to buy them. You don't really know my story because I think you're new. But I received a certain amount when I kind of made my quantum leap forward. I went from $5,000 to $6,000 a month income wise, all the way up to an average of $50,000 a month, nearly overnight. I never put a goal to have $50,000. I didn't even have, I did want more income, but my real goal, or so to speak, my intention was two things. One, I wanted to live my life a certain way. Number two, I wanted to have plenty of time to enjoy it. Because at the time, I was working 50, 60 hours, sometimes longer a week. And I'd been for years and years and years working even more hours than that, doing other things. And so I wanted my freedom. And then I had an idea of what my life would be like. And then what happened is $50,000 just happened to be the number that covered it. The 50,000 came not because I focused on 50,000. It came because that was the amount that it took for me, roughly, to live the lifestyle I was wanting to live at the time. And so that's what God and the universe provided. I put out there, though, how I wanted to live. Some people, depending on, and by the way, that changes over time too.
Sure.
What we want based on, we see contrast and we make decisions, right? Like Abraham and talks about. So if we don't want this, then what we want is its opposite. And so we should focus on what it is that we want. And so over the years, that has changed for me, and like it will for anybody. But the focus of money specifically, I had somebody give me a $130,000 car that I didn't buy.
Nice friends.
Business partner.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. But one thing I'm curious is to when you're fairly comfortable, through normal, means through your normal career,
uh,
it seems that you become pretty fixed in that position, and it seems to me to be difficult to make a leap from when you're fairly comfortable. You don't have a lot of needs, so there's nothing pressing in that sense.
Yeah. So here, going back to, if you want to talk about Esther Hicks, Esther and Jerry and Abraham, they talk a lot about how the law of attraction in the universe works, and they're on point. Okay. They don't tend to talk much about our subconscious mind and the programming that's gone on there.
I see.
Right. So what happens, Lynn, is we get into a groove of some sort, and that becomes what's normal for us. I'm not saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just what for us is normal. I mean, somebody could literally be getting abused on a daily basis, but if they've allowed that to go on and on and on, from a subconscious level, that becomes normal for that person as a program. What you just talked about was kind of what I refer to, in a money sense, a financial thermostat. You've now been programmed at X amount of income, X amount of lifestyle, X amount of whatever. And when you try and come out of it, you're like, why is it such a challenge to move out of this into what I really want? And that's
Yes.
because of the subconscious programs. So it is really important to understand how to reprogram ourselves, because all the laws that are functioning currently function whether we do anything about it or not. It's not our actions that make things function. It's not even our thoughts necessarily. Our thoughts have an impact, but the laws of the universe function whether we're doing anything or not. They just always are. So it's good for us to understand what those different laws are. However, our programming, if it's in opposition to whatever it is that we want, we can understand all the laws of the universe and still have trouble getting what we want, because our subconscious is going to battle us. So what we have to do is get our subconscious to accept whatever it is that we want as being normal for us. Once it accepts it as being normal for us, it doesn't want to fight us. It actually wants to make sure that we have it. So then it goes and moves heaven and earth to make sure that what it is that we want becomes what is our actual reality. So because then our subconscious is in alignment with the universe, alignment with God, in alignment with law of attraction, whatever it is that you want. But as long as our mind has a program in opposition to something that we would like to be different, and then we're not going to receive that until we change that program. Now, what's kind of cool, and this is why we can manifest things quickly sometimes, is we decide today, because of a new awareness, right? A new distinction. Oh, there's something really cool out there that I'd like to be, do, or have. And there's no program in our subconscious mind in opposition to that. Well, then when we put that out there, it usually reflects back to us really quick. It's only when we have something in opposition to what we want that we have to go, that there's any kind of struggle with this process.
Interesting. Now, what do you recommend as a process for the reprogramming required?
Well, we've been going, you can jump back in, and we kind of been going along through a process like that, self-serving a little bit, but actually it's serving to you guys. I'm a coach that, that can be hired in a group setting or a one-on-one setting. So you can get personal help from people. But if you're talking about what would I do, an awareness is a start. The more we become aware of things, that doesn't mean we become good at them. It doesn't mean that we're masters of anything at any particular time, just because we're now have a new awareness. For sometimes it's a big opening and maybe there's some kind of leap, but sometimes just becoming aware of what's really happening in the background helps us to go, okay, now I can make choices because now I'm aware. If you're wanting to reprogram your subconscious mind, one of the things I would go do is go read the book that we just spent about 2.5 weeks on by Joseph Murphy, called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And he's really not going to say anything likely in opposition to what it was that you've already said that you enjoy learning about. But that at a subconscious, there's other things too. I don't know if you want more money, it depends on what you want. If you want money and wealth to be the focus, and I make that a focus on purpose, because for most people, it's not strictly about being rich, even though the book is called The Science of Getting Rich. It's about learning the process of manifestation in a format that works. And when we get money kind of out of the way as a problem for us, then we feel more freedom, emotional freedom to do other things. But if we're having trouble taking care of our financial needs, it's really hard. Even Jesus, after he talked to the groups of the multitude, hey, when they got hungry, it was time to feed them. So he fed them, because they weren't going to listen any longer. They were going to probably pass out. So there's certain needs that have to be met. And because of the world we live in, the means of exchange for most everything is money. We have to either have the use or ownership of things in order to be, do, and have all that we can become. And money happens to be one of the easier ways easier things to exchange for those things that we want. But if we had 100% all the time perfect faith, then we wouldn't need money either. We would be manifesting things right and left without going through some of the process of living on planet Earth right now. But currently we do live on planet Earth. So Abraham, Esther, Jerry, there's a recognition there that, hey, money really isn't required. However, in the world that you live in, and because it's discussed so much and everybody asks for it, you might want to learn how to attract some of it.
Interesting. Very good. I'm going to look into this Joseph Murphy book as well, but thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome, Lynn. Hope you keep coming.
Will do.
Okay, anybody else? Any comments or questions? You guys gonna be shy with me? By the way, we are past time, so I guess we can stop now. I'm not holding anybody hostage. If you need to go, you need to go. That's cool. I usually stay just a little bit longer because people do have comments and questions and we get rolling with it. And as long as I have time to do so, I stick around and help out a little more. But we're essentially done for now, other than the questions. And you could go rewatch the recording and see whatever comments or questions get answered if you got to go somewhere. But before we go, one last chance for you guys. Anybody have anything they want to share or questions you want to ask that will help you sleep better tonight?
Hi, Kevin. It's Sunshine. How are you?
Hi, Sunshine. Awesome. How are you doing?
Awesome. So I have, I think, 2 questions.
Okay.
I've been practicing the better responses to my feelings, like, how are you doing? And I just said, awesome.
Cool.
However, the other day I did that and I kind of felt convicted because I wasn't feeling great. Like, I just wasn't. I've gotten some really bad news recently and I'm just, you know, going through the motions of grieving. So
Yes.
my questions are, what responses can or should I give when asked how am I doing? So I know I said the other day that I could use bless. Is okay. Okay is not a good one, right?
Oh, okay is pretty, it's neutral.
Okay.
It's kind of, it's not going to help you. Yeah, okay, I should take that back. The word itself is pretty neutral. What is your emotion behind saying okay, positive or negative or neutral? Some people could say okay, and actually that would bring a positive somewhat, not much, or neutral. Some people could say okay, and actually it'd make him feel bad. I know that sounds funny, but words are just words. It's the emotion and feeling that we attach to words, and what we, a word is just designed to make us think or feel something. Like if I say purple elephant, everybody's going to see a purple. See, you just saw one. Okay. It was just 2 words. They didn't have a meaning to, and some of you giggled. Somebody else might have cringed, depending on your thought about a purple elephant.
Got it. So
Yeah.
I guess to answer your question, my feeling behind okay, I would say that it's neutral, but I feel that it's better than not bad. So
It is better. It is better than not bad. You know what else you could say something to the effect of okay and improving.
Oh, I like that. Okay. And improving. Got it.
We're all
And
going to try
then
purple elephant. Sorry.
You're fine. And then my other question was, what things, because I know we touched on it a little bit, not last week, maybe the week before, what things should I continue or pause during grieving? And I think the answer to when can I resume is when I'm feeling better, because I don't want to add anything not positive when I'm trying to manifest. Because I remember last week you were like, oh, well, if you're feeling like this, then, things can become a train wreck. So I want to make sure that I'm doing things well, because I don't want any setbacks.
Sure. So let's, and I'm just going off of what I'm intuitively feeling and thinking right now. Just so understand that's what's coming out of my mouth. Doesn't mean that I know for sure or I'm perfect or anything by any means. Let's think about grieving for a minute. Okay. In a general sense. Let's take the person. Are you talking about somebody that's passed away, first of all? Because we can grieve a lot of things. let's talk about grieving about someone who has passed away that we cared about, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Does that person, if that person were alive and talking to you, no matter who that person is, do you think they would want you to be happy or sad?
I think they will want me to be happy.
Okay. So let's just assume everybody would want that. And if a person wants you to be sad, they've got probably some mental issue, right? It's like if I'm dying, I want everybody at my funeral just crying like crazy. That then there was something probably weird going on before they passed away. Right? If that's their attitude about it. Like when I look down, I want to see people bawling and I want to see people, messed up for at least 6 months. If it's not 6 months, they didn't love me enough. Then there's an issue, right? So I'm being light about this and playing with it a little bit. But if you really think about whoever it is, yes, the grieving is you're the one grieving, not them. You're grieving for you. You're grieving for you and your benefit. But you're not necessarily grieving for their benefit. If you're actually honoring them, what mostly they would want for you is your joy and your happiness, your peace of mind. They would want you to know that, hey, I am now in another place that is actually just the next step in my progression. And in the future, you and I will hook up again and see each other. I want you to understand that I'm in a great place. I'm feeling good. I'm actually excited because I'm progressing even more than I could when I was on planet Earth. And I'm going to see you again and we'll hook up and be friends when this is over. However, if you keep grieving needlessly and endlessly, then what may happen to you as a result of that could be receiving things in your life that you don't want. And that's absolutely the opposite of what I would want for you. I'd want you to receive every blessing you can possibly receive. The best way you can honor my life is to actually show joy and to be the best you that you can be. And when we hook up again, we'll continue on from where we stopped.
I love it. Thank you so much. That has helped me tremendously.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments before we go today?
Hey, Kevin, this is Steph.
Hey, Steph.
I just wanted to comment on the last line of chapter 4 in what we read today.
Okay.
I thought it was really powerful because, as you and I have talked, I struggle with the fact that because I'm somewhat of a minimalist, and so if I don't need it, then that's my subconscious struggle right there, so to speak. And I think the last line was you stopped thinking and what was it exactly?
Oh,
It was
investment.
Investment. Think in terms of investment. And it's so funny because I was just talking to my brother last night about yours and my conversation the other day via text. And he knows that I'm kind of a minimalist. He said, maybe what you need to do is think about opulence and things of that sort as an investment. So there's a purpose to it.
Yeah.
And then, we read this line and I was just laughing to myself because it was literally the conversation I had last night with my brother.
Awesome. We've got to recognize that we're not taking away from anybody or anything by having what we want, because we're not doing it competitively. We're doing it creatively. And because we're doing it creatively, in the process of doing it, we create more for everybody. So, however, that doesn't mean either, by the way, that you have to go want things that you don't care about at all either. Okay. Just piling up stuff for the sake of piling up stuff, doesn't really matter. Yeah. Right. The best thing is to recognize and ask yourself, where does this, this minimalist thinking come from? And does it bring me joy and peace, or does it bring, stagnation? And can I do all the things I want to do, be what I want to, be what I want to be, do what I want to do, and have what I want to have based upon where I'm currently at? And if you can't, don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Right. Right. I think that just really flipped a switch for me, though, to think about things in terms of you're investing in something. And so for me, that was like an aha moment.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, and I told, the text I sent you, right? Opulence, right? It's
Yeah.
bathe yourself in it for a while, because the other reason a lot of times we reject, wanting something is because we're not comfortable around it at this point. And until we actually experience it, and then we go, that's actually feels pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't even really know. And that's where we get this contrast, right? We try things, and anything that we don't want, then we know we want the opposite of it. So we don't focus on what we don't want. But if we got this thought that comes, I don't want to, then stop yourself and say, however, what I do want is, and at least negate that I don't want thought. I don't know what I really want is, boom. And then focus on the thing that you really want. Because every time we don't want something to happen, then we want its opposite then.
Yeah, I've definitely turned a corner on that one as far as the way I think about in terms of wants. Like, I don't think about what I don't want anymore. And if I do, I'm immediately correcting it.
Cool. Well, any other questions or comments before we go? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you guys and gals for being with us today. And I look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Great.
You're
Thanks a
welcome.
lot, Kevin.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Bye.
Evan, thank
Bye.
you.
Welcome.
See you guys.